Well, good evening and welcome to About the Valley. And my guest tonight is from the Valley, Christine Whipple. She works for uh, Berkeley,
Berkshire
Berkshire
Hathaway,
Hathaway,
Commonwealth Real Estate.
a really large real estate organization,
Yes,
but very well known and reputable.
yes,
So you got to be careful who you buy through.
that's true.
Yeah,
That's true. There are a lot of large brokerages, and a lot of the smaller ones are reputable too. But you
Yeah.
should always be aware of who
but
you're
there's
working with.
like any business, there's bad apples out there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But we want to talk real estate within the Valley. And we were talking off camera that the Valley is becoming unaffordable, isn't it?
Yes, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that, but start at the national level.
Yes.
So one of the statistics that I found interesting, the National Association of Realtors put out some interesting demographics. The median age for the first-time home buyer is 28 years old. And that average 28 years old who is buying their house for the first time makes about $97,000.
Well,
The median age for a multiple homeowner is 61 years old, and they make about 114,000.
and they own multiple homes.
Well, I should say another home. So they might be
Okay, they
selling
have a
their home
vacation home.
and selling their home and buying another home. You know, maybe
Oh.
the home they raised their children in.
Uh-huh.
They're selling that home and buying another home.
Oh, I see. Downsizing.
Downsizing, or maybe they're moving here from across the country where they had a job, but they've owned a house in the past.
Ah.
So everyone else kind of lands in the middle, lands above or below, but those are the median ages.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the biggest question I get is on interest rates. Everyone wants to
Yes.
know, but it doesn't matter how old they are or whether they're buying their first house or a multiple house or their second house. Everyone wants to know about interest rates.
Well, 1% can make a big difference on the amount of your
Yes.
payment.
A fraction of a percent
Yeah.
can make a big difference. So this year, what the economists are saying is that they think that things will stay between 6 and 7%. It looks like it will be a good year, and there could be some growth, but they're not seeing things go much below 6%. So buyers are still kind of staying. They're keeping an eye on those fluctuations, and that's what will drive the home market right now. And that's when we sell houses and someone says, "How's the market doing?" I always say, selling the houses does not tell us where the prices are going. It's the people who are buying the houses, the home buyers. If we could say homes will average 500,000 in Northbridge this year, but we don't know that because it's the people who are buying the houses who determine what the market's doing and determine that price. Demand, yes, exactly. So I'm gonna repeat some of the things that you and I have talked about in the past. Do you remember when interest rates hit a high of I think it was 20% in 2008?
Yes, yes. That was unbelievable. I mean, and people are still buying.
Yes, and now we've seen them go down to 2.5%.
Yes.
So if we experience that high of 20% or that low of 2.5%, something's wrong. That's not a healthy market.
Right.
I mean, the Fed's, that's not a healthy market. And things aren't good. It's bad news. Today's interest rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage is 6.6%. And that's a decrease from the previous week's average of 6.7%. These are normal, healthy rates. And there are a lot of people these days just waiting and expecting us to go down to 4 or 5%. Someday that might happen, but probably not in the near future. And as I said, the lower we go, if we go to 2 or 3%, something's wrong. We don't want the interest rate there.
Then you're getting into a recession period, right?
Yes. So at a business luncheon recently, I asked a few questions. There were probably 30 or 40 people in the room, and I said, "How many of you are thinking of selling your house?" So several people raised their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, "How many of you are thinking about buying, or have children who are thinking about buying?" And several more people raised their hands. And then I asked, and how many of you are waiting for the interest rate to go down? And almost everyone raised their hands. And my reaction was, so is the rest of the world.
Yes,
It's not, there, if the price you pay for a house is the price you pay for a house. So if you wait for interest rates to go down and everyone else does, if supply and demand are off kilter now, everyone in the world is coming out. So there'll be price wars and the house prices will be jacked up again. It's
well, you could actually you buy your house at 6%, and then if it drops,
yes.
remortgage.
The rule of thumb is 2%. If you refinance if you have 7% and it goes to 5, that's the basic rule of thumb, to wait
Right.
until the refinance.
If it drops 2%, then it's time to remortgage.
Exactly. So it's much, you can't change the price you pay for a house,
Right.
but you can change your monthly mortgage. It's much easier to change your monthly mortgage rate by refinancing.
Now also, with the percentage, can that be affected by your credit rating as well?
Yes, and we're going to get there in a few minutes.
Oh,
I do
okay.
have a list. I know you had asked me at one point what affects the interest rate, and I dug a little, and there were things I knew, but I wanted to make sure that I was on target with them.
Yeah.
But the credit rating is probably the most important factor.
Oh.
Usually, the people with higher credit ratings get a little bit of a break on their
Yeah.
interest rate. So I think that, my advice to anyone is buy now.
Yes.
If you find your dream house, don't wait, because life is short. If you find your dream house, go for it. At 6 or 7%, sooner or later that interest rate will come down and you can refinance.
Right.
But don't wait, because what if you wait and it takes 2 or 3 years, your dream house may no longer be there.
Exactly. Someone else is going to buy
Yes.
it.
We don't see the interest rate coming down exceptionally low in the near future. So if you're thinking about selling your house, sell your house. The prices are robust.
Yes.
Inventory is ridiculously low.
And wouldn't you think if the interest rate dropped, that could actually make the cost of housing go up because more people are out there buying?
Yes. Yes.
So
And-
you could lose out, the price will go up, so you didn't make out at all. You've been better off buying a higher rate.
Exactly. I mean, I think in our office, and we have 40 agents, last week we had listings in the single digits.
Oh,
And the open houses, I mean, we had lines of 30 and 40 people at open houses. We were once again getting bids of 25 to 100,000 over, because there's nothing
oh
out
my
there.
God.
And there are people out there who have to buy.
Yeah,
So there are people who are saying we're going to wait, but I think if, there are still houses that houses that need a little bit of work aren't going over. They still be, depending on the town, it might be competitive, but if you want to buy, go buy your dream house now.
yeah.
And if you want to sell, now is the time. I had 5 calls in the past 2 weeks from people who are interested in selling their home. And none of them, and there are some good reasons why they're not listing until April or May, but even the ones that didn't have good reasons were hesitant. And I kept saying, now is the time, because we don't know. Maybe in April or May, inventory will still be low. It will still be lowish, but I don't think it will be as low as it is right now. So,
Yeah, this is a buyer's market, right, a seller's market right now.
seller's market, yes. Yes, we do, like I said, we do expect interest rates to stay at about 6 or 7%. So I don't think that's going to change very much.
If you sold your house right now too, you probably wouldn't have everything go through until April anyway.
Yes. Well,
So if you're
Yes.
concerned about moving in the winter,
well,
most likely.
usually it's about 30 days. So if you sell it now, probably sometime in February. But there are all kinds of, I sold a house several months ago to a gentleman that was moving here from California. The folks that were selling the house, they had 3 months. That's
Yeah.
what they wanted. Some
Yeah.
people want to close in 30 days, and that's more normal.
Right,
But there are tons of different situations.
right,
So I wanted to get to that interest rate question you had.
yes,
And the top, without a doubt, the top factor is credit score.
Yes.
But even the fraction, even a fraction of a percent can save you thousands over the life of your loan. So it's worth kind of considering some of these factors. Down payment, if you put less than 20%, there's PMI, that's private mortgage insurance. So I think that a lot of people who have bought houses in the past are aware of that PMI. A lot of new homeowners should be aware of it. Because prices are so crazy, there are a lot of new homeowners buying homes and not putting 20% down. If you can't, that's fine.
Right.
But just know that the PMI also applies to refinancing. When your equity is less than 20% of the value of your home, then you still have PMI. So I think you're better off trying to get that 20% in the beginning.
But PMI can add a lot to your mortgage,
It can, it can, yes.
Especially when we're talking amounts to the prices to houses.
Yes. So the other factors are amount of debt that you have. That can actually boot you right out of being qualified. So pay your bills.
Yes.
That has to do, and when you pay your bills, your credit goes up. So it's,
Right.
one and two of the
It's
same.
not how much you owe, it's how you pay it.
It's both.
But it was both, but it's
Yes.
more so how you pay it than anything else, right?
Yes. You pay it quickly and on time.
Yes.
So then the loan amount and the loan structure. Shorter term loans have lower interest rates and overall costs. So if you can take out a 20-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage, you'll have lower rates
Yes.
and lower overall costs. But as I said, everyone's in a different situation, especially first-time home buyers. They may not be able to take a 20-year, and that's okay. Just know that you'll get a lower rate if you take a.
How about the variable? That might not be a bad idea. It keeps your cost down a little bit.
Yes.
And then when you get situated and you remortgage, you just go to a fixed.
I mean,
When
the adjustable rate.
the rates come down enough,
Yes.
you go to a fixed.
That's becoming a more popular option these days. It's just so expensive to buy a home.
Right.
And the location of the property is a factor with interest rates too. Every states have different interest rate formulas, and even cities. You'll pay more in a city than you will in a town. So, and
Oh.
sometimes it depends on what city.
Yeah.
So that's not changeable if, say, you work someplace and you have to buy a house in that municipality. But if you're thinking about moving to a community, there are, and I don't know the website you go to, but there are websites that you can go to find out how what the town you'd like to live in is affected, how you factor that into the interest rate.
Oh,
So.
I didn't realize that.
So that's a little bit about interest rates. I did want to get to Massachusetts,
Yes.
and this was interesting. Again, the National Association for Realtors put out this statistic recently. The real estate industry accounted for 132.8 billion, or 17.6% of the gross state product in 2024.
Wow.
So that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's that factors in the buying and selling, but it also factors in all the brokerages that are here. They're adding to it factors in the people who are working with mortgages and the mortgage companies. So it's everything that has to do with real estate that's
Wow.
going into that number. And with that, then on top of it, we were talking about this just before the show came on, is that Massachusetts is number 3 on the list of the most expensive housing markets in the United States.
Unbelievable.
So the first one is Hawaii. That shouldn't be a surprise. The second is
Right.
California, which everyone expected. There is Massachusetts, and the fourth one is Utah, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
But the average house in Massachusetts, the first quarter of 2024, was $609,415.
Unbelievable.
In December of 2024, a median sale price for a Massachusetts home was $628,800. $800, and that's an 8.9% increase from December
And
2023.
we're talking a standard say 3-bedroom house, right?
Yes. So part of what people, when you hear statistics like that, they kind of stop you in your tracks. But we've got Boston. Boston's
Yes.
big. Boston's expensive. Boston's got an airport. Boston has a lot of things that New York City has in LA. There are reasons that that and some of those expenses trickle down to other communities in Massachusetts.
Right, well, it expands out from Boston.
Yes.
So all communities around there, you're within commuting distance, short commuting distance, but you gotta pay for that.
Yes. So we also have world-renowned universities,
Yes,
and we also have some of the best healthcare in the world. All of those things are costly. We have great research, we have great biotech, we have some fantastic job opportunities in many sectors. There are reasons.
the median income would have an effect on the price too, right?
Yes.
If people are making more money here because
Yes.
we've got high-paying jobs,
But then people are spending more money. They're making
right,
more
they're
money.
spending
so.
more, but the unfortunate thing is that the person who's not making the high-paying jobs that lives here has to deal with it.
Yes. And that's a dilemma.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about listings in 2024, and this is Massachusetts. New listings were up by 7.5%, and that's after 3 years of listings being down. Berkshire County, this is Massachusetts. Berkshire County saw the biggest increase. They were up by about 50%.
Oh, wow.
But Worcester
That's out
County,
in western Massachusetts.
yes, and Worcester County saw kind of a more modest increase. We were about 6%. So, it wasn't as high as most of the rest of the country, but it was an increase.
Yes.
So drilling down more to Worcester County and the Blackstone Valley. In Worcester County, the median sale price for a single-family home and condos rose from $180,000 in 2012 to $345,000
It
in
doubled.
2021. That's a 91% increase.
That's unbelievable.
And during that time, the Blackstone Valley town that saw the highest increase is Mendon. So
Yeah,
Mendon
you would-
prices, they doubled. If you had a house in Mendon that was worth $300,000 in 2012, then in 2021 you were looking at $600,000.
That's unbelievable. And Mendon doesn't really offer anything.
Well, they offer something.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a nice commuting area. But you would think that,
Well, people are buying houses out there and raising the price, so
yeah,
So Millbury, Sutton, Uxbridge, Douglas, Blackstone, and Millville sale prices increased by 80 to 100,000 in the same period. So we were, these towns were kind of close behind. If they
Yeah.
increased by 80 to 100,000.
Is some of that be because of the fact that the housing developers are coming in and building large colonials?
That's one of the factors.
Yeah, so they're not building small homes, they're building large homes, and they're getting big bucks for them.
Sure. Well, I can think of that's happening in Mendon,
Yeah,
for sure. I'm looking at some of the other towns. That's not happening in Millville, I don't think. Sure, I've seen that happen in maybe Millbury and Blackstone, but I don't think there's a lot of big communities going up in Sutton. Some people are building bigger houses. So yes and no.
well, Sutton and Douglas kind of keep it under control by having large lots.
Yes.
But that may come to an end because the state is working against that with the MBTA
Yes.
ruling.
Yes. And I can't even begin to guess what will happen there. I do know that there are some towns that are finding loopholes, that not in the Blackstone Valley, but there are some towns in other parts of Massachusetts who are finding loopholes.
Oh,
So
yeah, they're gonna try, that's for sure.
I think it will be a while before, the test is in the Blackstone Valley to see how that goes.
Right,
However long a while is. In 2024, the state put together a housing advisory council. They came up with a housing plan for Central Mass, and there were listening sessions in every region in the state, so it wasn't just Central Mass. Our listening session was held in the Blackstone Visitor Center. The housing, they looked at each community and thought, well, the housing crisis is going to affect renters more in some areas and homeowners more in other areas, and they're looking at regions, not towns at this point. So the housing cost crisis hits renters in Worcester County a little bit more than homeowners. In Worcester County, almost 1 out of 4 renter households is quote-unquote severely cost burdened, spending more than half of their income in rent and utilities. Homeowners, though, they also struggle with housing costs. Almost 1/4 of owners in Worcester County are cost burdened, with 10% paying more than half of their income in mortgage and utilities. So the Massachusetts Housing Partnership kind of keeps track of a lot of this, and they're saying that the average household in Massachusetts is paying roughly $1,153 more per month to purchase basic goods and services, like groceries, housing costs, transportation, and energy. Since January 2021, they're paying significantly more. I don't know what to do about that. Again, we were talking about it just a few minutes ago, about heating costs going up and electric costs going up.
Yeah. Yeah, how do nothing you can really do. I mean, I know I'm getting solicited all the time to go to this solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't put them on your house, but you buy the solar generator. But that's not as cheap as you might think. Even though, because it costs so much to build these solar farms.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna get something, recoup their money back. Eventually that might be a good buy, but I don't think it's that great a buy yet.
I don't know what the answer is, but
Yeah, I mean,
everything's groceries are going up,
Yeah.
and
the price of eggs had dropped, now it's back up, they're up again.
well, I heard someone say that the price of eggs is going back up, and people
'Cause
are
of the
going to
bird
be
flu.
limited on how many eggs they can buy.
Yeah, because of the bird
Somebody
flu.
said that you'll only be allowed to buy 2 dozen eggs at a time. I don't know.
No.
But what do you do? You know,
Right,
if you're
I mean, there's outside influences that come in and affect everything.
Mhm. Exactly.
And we can only hope that prices start to drop, but they're pretty well stable. But I'll say, every time I go shopping, I notice prices still going up. Not a lot, but it goes up. It trickles here, it trickles there.
Well, what is going up is also building supplies.
Yes,
So-
and that's going to affect the housing market.
Yes. So the average,
dramatically.
a lot of small contractors are just either building less or not building at all until there's some kind of
Yeah, COVID saw a large increase in building
shortages.
material.
COVID
Yeah,
not only
shortage.
saw increases, but they saw shortages of
Right,
material.
and
where
that brought the
houses
price up.
Yes.
And that also was when you notice you had that spike in the housing market.
Yes. Well, what I would say is Koopman is they are our local guys, and they
Yeah.
always have great prices. But Koopman's been great. Some of the contractors I've worked with, I've sent them there, and they get a lot of one-on-one care, and they've just been great to work with.
Right, oh yeah, they've always done a great job in the valley.
So as far as inventory goes, that is a big part of what's driving prices up right now.
Yes, yeah, if it's not available, prices are gonna go up.
Exactly. There are people who have to sell their houses. There are people
Yeah.
who are moving or getting transferred out for work, or maybe they have a parent that they have to care for in another state. So they have to sell their house and buy one. And I think that what a lot of the people who are selling are finding, that depending on where they're moving,
Yes.
they're not really, in some parts of the country, they're not getting deals there either. So, but the people who are buying here, they have to buy, and the price, there's no inventory. There's just no
Right.
inventory. So what do you do? And then there are people who would like to buy. I mean, during COVID, when we came, I think was it 2021 or 2022, it was early in our all getting back together after
Yes.
COVID. And one of the real estate associations gave statistics, and we're sitting at a staff meeting, and one of the statistics that my office manager told us about, he said, look at this. There are more children, parents are giving their children home deposits, and in record, I mean, this is a percentage high. The country has never seen so many parents giving their children deposits to buy homes.
Because they wouldn't be able to buy one without it, right?
Well, no, because during COVID, children had to move in with their parents, and after 2 or 3 years, the parents were saying, "Here, take it,
Yeah.
go buy a house, get out."
Get out of here, go buy your own house. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are still people with children living in their homes trying to push them out. And there's just all kinds of reasons that people have to buy homes. And you've got newlyweds, you've got people who just get married who
Yes.
would rather buy a home than rent, and some of them can afford it, and some of them can't.
Well, there is a big advantage of buying a home as opposed to renting.
Yes.
When you rent, at the end of the year, you get a lot of receipts. When you buy, at the end of the year, you got equity.
Yes. And
It's-
there are more advantages. I mean, you've got your
Yeah.
own place, and
But
you've there are many advantages to owning a home.
You got a good tax deduction.
Yes. There are many advantages to owning your own home, but some people can't afford it just yet.
No.
I'm just saying that
But
the
rents
lack
are
of
going, are
inventory.
getting so high that, if all you gotta do is come up with a down payment, that's the hard part.
That is the hard part. And actually, inventory, which I'm going to touch on in a few minutes, but inventory with rentals, especially in Worcester County, is low too. It's probably as low, if not lower, than inventory for homes.
Yes, I seen someone on Facebook the other day, they said, I'm being evicted because someone another landlord bought the house I live in, the apartment I live in, and they want to remodel. They told me I gotta get out.
Well, in Massachusetts, we don't have rent control. And if tenants have a lease, then legally that landlord has to wait until the lease is up.
Right, but in a lot of cases, it's a
If it's
tenant
a
at will, right?
tenant at will, they have to give them 30 days.
Yeah,
They can legally raise their rent, but they have to give them 30 days. If they're not giving them 30 days, if a current landlord or someone new coming in to buy the house, if they come in the beginning of February and say, we want you out by the end of the month, that's illegal.
yeah.
If they say, buy a house at the beginning of February and say, we need you out by the end of March, then that's legal. There's nothing,
Yeah, now where do you
So-
go? Because there's not a lot of rents available, are there?
yes. And legally, the tenants, I can't believe this is in writing, in many places, legally tenants can refuse to pay that. That's in writing, but legally if tenants refuse to pay that, landlords have every right to evict them for not paying it. So it doesn't make sense, but that's, legally it says tenants don't have to pay what's, if you don't pay, you'll probably be evicted, So we don't have rent control, and the bottom line is you've got that, 30 days, but we're going to get to that in a few minutes too. I wanted to stick with the inventory, for a
Yes.
few minutes. The Realtor Association of Central Mass state, and this is a known fact anyway, a healthy vacancy rate that allows people to find a home when they're ready to move is 4 to 6%. In Worcester County, only 1.6% of homes are available for sale or rent. So we're way below what the national average is. And in many Worcester County towns, the vacancy rent, again for homes and apartments, is 0.5%.
Oh
So it's
my
half a
God.
percent.
That's really none at all.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and again, I don't know what to do about that. I mean, you can't. If apartments aren't available, apartments aren't available.
Right.
If homes aren't available, homes aren't available.
Yeah,
So, a vacancy rate in Worcester County is also one of the lowest in the country's. Estimated at about, the rate's more than 3 times lower. 3 times lower. This is in the rental market than the national rental vacancy rate. So we are 3 times, to me that's staggering. That's just staggering. But saying that, Worcester County ranks just near the middle of the pack in eviction filings, and that's so. I looked at a graph this morning of who has problems with, who has the most evictions and who has the least. And for us to have one of the lowest vacancy rates but keep evictions in the middle, that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
So there are other towns that I'm not going to mention. People can go online and see. But there are other towns in Massachusetts that are have a better vacancy rate, and their evictions are much higher than ours. So what that tells me is there's some compassion out there, and there's some fairness, and it's not as bad as in our region. It's just not as bad as what some people make it out to be, but it's still happening. And
Right.
I don't know what to say. I mean, if somebody's buying an investment houses are very expensive these days.
Yes.
They have to pay for their investment.
Yeah. And you can hope to collect the rent.
Yes. So I wanted to.
And you got maintenance costs and everything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know, I used to be a landlord.
It's not easy.
No, it isn't. And I would be just about breaking even by the time I paid everything. But you got to take care of the place.
A friend of mine has 2 houses in Northbridge, rental houses. They have 4 units each, and on a regular basis, he's probably collecting rent. He's probably not collecting rent. People aren't paying in 2 or 3 units.
Yeah.
And then people move. It's hard to keep statistics on
Right.
people who rent because they move, and for all kinds of reasons. Maybe they can't afford rent. I don't know, but he always has usually 1 unit empty, and so it's really hard to be a landlord or a building owner. But on
Yeah.
the other hand, I don't know what to do with the renters who can't afford. You've got people who have been paying $300 or $400 a month for rent because the older person, who rented it to them 25 years ago now
Well,
has either sold
they
or
had
is an
no
assisted.
mortgage or had a
Exactly.
very low mortgage, and they could afford to charge less for rent.
So, but now either they pass away or they move away or they go
Yeah.
to assisted living, and this new landlord comes in and they've paid a fortune for the house, and they
Right,
can't.
they got to charge a good amount for rent because it's costing them a lot.
Yes.
And especially if they supply heat.
Yes.
They-
So you were talking about new 40R, a
Yes.
new 40R.
Not,
project.
there's gonna be a proposal at town meeting for a 40R, which is like a 40B, except the planning board would oversee the construction of the apartments, well, they're talking condominiums, and the development, whereas a 40B, the town has no control at all. They don't have to follow any of the subdivision rules and regs or anything at all, they just do what they want. So it gives them, it's like, go in, do whatever you want, and whatever it costs you. Whereas the 40R, at least the town has a say in how it's developed and what it looks like.
And these would be affordable housing.
And it has to be 10% affordable.
Okay, so you had mentioned that affordable housing might be 1,500.
Yeah, they're talking around $1,500 right now, they're averaging it out at, like based on income.
Sure. And in a few minutes, I'm going to let you know what certain towns are getting on average for rent, and you'll see that 1,500 is a good price.
Yeah.
That's sad because, I mean, I don't know how. I was reading an article last week that said more and more people are just taking roommates. Even as they get older, they just have to have roommates.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
they
mean, you're
can't
talking
afford to.
about $400 a week. If you make $1,000 a week, you pay 400 of it in rent, doesn't leave you a lot for your other expenses. You got cars, you got utilities, I mean, there's not much left.
But the good news is affordable housing. Every town in Massachusetts there are prerequisites for affordable housing, and I think you said ours in Northbridge would be satisfied, most likely with.
Yes, yeah. If this is built, we would be around 10% affordable. Right now, I think we average somewhere around 7 to 8%. We're not quite there. And we've got some affordable housing within the town.
Mm-hmm.
A good example is Linwood Mill.
Sure.
But but we recently had the over 55. In the over 55 bylaw, it requires that they be partially affordable.
Mm-hmm.
The problem we ran into is when we couldn't find anybody to oversee it. We wanted the housing authority to oversee it. They didn't want any part of it. So we made a provision that if they don't put any affordable in, they pay the town a amount of money in lieu of it.
Okay.
And that's what the 055 Stone Hill has done in town. In fact, one of the things they did was they put a park right down here in Rockdale. It was built on money that they got from the 055. But there's other things that they'll be getting money for as well.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we had to do that because we had nobody that would oversee it. The 40R would have that. There will be provisions in there, and that would have to be definitely required.
Okay. That makes sense.
But the 055 would have been affordable for people over 55 anyway. This is going to be for people of all ages.
Yes, and we need that. I mean, we have
Yeah.
Walmart and we have other, how much do people who work at Walmart make?
Yeah, I mean, I think what they average probably $15 an hour.
And we've still got manufacturing
Yeah,
mills in the valley.
yeah.
We've got, so people
I mean, I'm
need-
probably paying a little more than that. I think the state minimum wage is $15 an hour.
Sure.
But even if you make $20 an hour, it's $800 a week. I mean, it's not a lot of money today. It sounds like a lot. So it sounds like a lot when I first started working, 60 years ago. We averaged $40 a week was considered a good paycheck.
But how much did houses cost?
But yeah, what it would cost back then too, right, exactly.
How much did cars cost?
Yeah.
It was just,
I mean, you can't buy an old used car now for
know.
what new cars
I
cost
know.
back then.
so I wanted to let you know specifically a little bit about towns in the Blackstone Valley. And currently there are 126 today. There are 126 houses listed in 11 towns.
Oh.
So that's
Not many.
not
You're
many.
talking 11 towns.
And the average house price in the Blackstone Valley today is $737,445,000.
That is unbelievable.
Yes.
You know, I built my house over 40 years ago. It cost me about $35,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even a down payment today.
I know.
God.
So,
But that shows you though that if you can buy a house, you're making a good move.
yes. They're just going up in price.
Yeah.
So, like I said, if you find your dream house,
And even if they drop, and we've had that happen,
sure.
We had a real estate boom a few years ago when houses were going up right here at Shiny Rock for $1 million.
Sure.
They've come down, but they don't drop that much.
No. And we can't see that happening. And the inventory, we just can't see the inventory changing.
Right.
And as long as there's no inventory, there won't be, prices are just going up.
The only thing that could happen is if for some reason people want to move out of the state. And there are some people moving out, but there's more coming in than moving out.
So, Massachusetts, as I said before, we've got great education, healthcare,
Yes.
bioscience. I mean, we've got a lot to offer.
We've got some good jobs coming up, good paying jobs.
Yes. And there are parts of Massachusetts that are still building,
Yes.
just not much in our area.
Well, there's the other thing too, is we're running out of buildable land.
Yes.
There's land, but some of it is, the cost of building just goes up. And developer comes in and says, is it worth me going in there, and it's gonna cost me this much more to build?
Yes. So, what I wanted to do is tell you specifically about several towns today and how many houses and apartments they've got. So, Northbridge today has 10 homes listed. On the 20th, which I think is the last time we talked, there were 14. So we've got less. But rentals are up.
Yeah.
Today in Northbridge, there are 18 rentals listed, and on the 20th, there were 9.
Oh,
So, and it could be just because it's heading toward the end of the month, or it is the end of the month. The average rent in Northbridge is $1,900 a month.
unbelievable. God, that is unbelievable. Almost $2,000 a month.
In Douglas, there are 24 homes. That's up from 11 on the 20th, but there were only 2 rentals. There were 3 on the
Well, there's
the
not a lot
20th.
of rental property in Douglas.
True. The average rent in Douglas is $1,900 a month as well. So in Mendon, there are 6 homes for sale, single digits. But there are 36 rentals.
Wow, I didn't think there was that much rental property in
Well,
Mendon.
most of them are homes. Most of them are
Oh,
houses.
okay.
So the average rent is $2,400 a month, which is 27% higher than the national average.
Here again, you're renting a home. So that's gonna be a little higher than renting an apartment.
Yes. In Blackstone, and I tried to go regionally in several different places in the valley. In Blackstone, there are 10 homes available and 4 rentals. And in Blackstone, the average rent is $2,100 a month
Wow, in Blackstone.
in Blackstone.
So these are unbelievable. Now, we're talking rentals. You do rentals, right?
Yes,
I always said that you're better off to go through an agent
yes.
because you keep yourself safe
Mm-hmm.
and covered. You don't get trapped into something that you might be sorry for.
Yes.
Because that agent's gonna make sure that they take care of you, right? And buying a home, you definitely should use a real estate agent.
Yes. I think that the percentage nationally was 88% of people buying homes these days are using agents.
Yeah, because you're safer.
And there are things that you might not realize. Even, I mean, we just had an example last week of an attorney who said he was a real estate attorney and decided to sell his own home and buy another home. And he worked with other people buying and selling. And this was out by Boston. The Berkshire Hathaway is all over the place. But he had bought homes in the past and he helped other people buy and sell. But there were things that he didn't know existed now. So there were some problems that
Yeah.
had to be ironed out.
Yeah,
You know, because they
there's a
didn't
lot
use
of
an
laws that
agent.
you don't know that are out there,
Yes.
that a real estate agent's gonna be aware of, and make sure to protect yourself.
Yes, there are all these little landmines.
Yeah.
Legal landmines that you need to be careful about. And obviously, as a consumer isn't going to get in as much trouble as a real estate agent, but even consumers, some of those laws out there can trip them up
Right.
if they don't use an agent. So, and you know, we represent you. We know how to negotiate.
Yes.
You know, we were talking about sales jobs earlier, and for most of my life, I've done sales jobs. And
Yeah.
some of that was actually buying and selling real estate, but on my own and flipping houses. And it's just the average person doesn't understand the percentages and how to negotiate, how to close a sale.
Yeah.
You know, if there are several, if I'm a buyer's agent and I know that I'm going into a competitive situation as far as making an offer on a home, I know what questions to ask. You know, I mean, I know to say to the listing agent, what can we put in our offer that will make this more attractive?
Yes.
You know, and
yes.
certain things like
Yeah.
that. Or if I'm representing the seller, if I'm a listing agent, then and we have multiple bids, for example, then I can point out, I can give pros and cons because the most money isn't always the best.
Right.
You know, they might, if that homeowner wants to move in 30 days, they might say, well, we need to sell our house first.
Ah.
So do you want to get into that?
Yeah.
Even though they're the highest, there were all kinds of other
Yeah,
variables
because
that
they may be 3 months before they sell a house, you don't know,
you just don't know,
right?
you know, and being a seller's market, like I said, nobody can predict what the future brings. So it's all, but that's why you're better off to have an agent representing you. I mean, that's what we go to school for. That's what we work with every
Yes.
day.
Yeah, and you have to obey the law,
Yes.
you're supervised under the law.
Yes.
But now, is it a good idea too, to get approved?
Yes.
And then you can go in, here's what you got, what you're gonna be allowed to do.
Yes.
Okay, we'll let you go up to 700,000. But if you buy the house for 500,000, okay, well, that's less money you have to borrow, but you're able to go up that high.
These days, a lot of folks won't take an offer unless there's a pre-approval to go with it.
Ah.
Because it's a seller's market. and
Yeah.
That's a tool.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, yeah, if you're selling and you go and buy, you do take an offer from someone who isn't pre-approved, what happens if they don't get approved?
Okay.
Yeah, you've lost.
In this market, if you have an agent working for you as someone who's listing their home, that
Yeah.
agent is going to advise you, do not take any offers unless it's cash, obviously.
Right,
But don't take any offers without a pre-approval.
yeah,
And if you're a buying, and there are other things, I mean, a lot of times people get a pre-approval and they know they have more of a ceiling to play with, they just don't want to go there.
yeah,
But maybe they fall in love with their dream house and they need 40,000 more, which they know they have. Then most lenders will look at that and they'll know in advance anyway, because they've sat down with these people, that they can just give another pre-approval letter.
yeah.
So there's a lot to know and a lot of tricks.
I wanted to talk too about a new thing that was started a number of years ago, where you got multi-family houses and they're turning them into condos. I'm talking the old mill houses in a lot of
Mhm.
cases, where they were, say, six apartments, but the owner broke it down and made 6 condos.
So it's interesting because when you look at the history of that happening, it works better in cities than
Right.
it does in towns. Boston and New York and Providence,
Yeah,
that's a lucrative thing to do. But if you look at the smaller towns, there are lots of variables and factors I can think of. I mean, maybe people don't want to pay that much money for what seems to be an apartment, or there
yeah.
are lots of factors.
And
But
then
it just-
but you gotta put a condo fee together and everything else, right?
Yes, so statistically, in towns that hasn't worked out very well. I mean, it's happening here and there, but
Right,
the other thing that's come into being is the EDUs, the accessory dwelling units. So that just, Massachusetts just threw that out in January as a law, and the municipalities can kind of take a look at that and make it their own.
oh.
And I don't know where Northbridge is on it. I do know that I've had several clients that have looked at the EDU possibilities in Worcester. And
Yeah.
that allows, I'll give you an example. There was a couple, they were probably in their 60s, 70s, they wanted to downsize. But they loved their home, and their children said, we'll buy the home. But the parents said, well, we'd love to be here, but we don't want to live with you. So this was not in Worcester. I don't remember which town it was. It was just on the periphery of the Blackstone Valley, I think. So I don't know, maybe it was one of the boroughs. So in that instance, the town let them build what was called an EDU, an accessory dwelling unit. And I think that, I know it can only be a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and there's a square footage equivalent that I think is around 900, it might be a little over 900.
We're not talking a very big place.
No, it's not, but if you're a couple
Yeah,
and you live on your own and you want to downsize and
Yeah.
not live with your children, but live near them, then
yeah, this is the big trend to these EDUs, isn't it?
it is. And there's there's some talk in Worcester about, because dealing with all these older three families,
Yeah,
I think that there's some talk in Worcester, like, well, how can we, it's so expensive to, you know, to do certain things with three families that are on the books that they have to do. They're kind of thinking, well, in some cases, maybe one of those units could be an EDU to make life
Oh.
easier.
Yeah,
So it's every municipality has their own, there are some municipalities that are saying, no, that and tiny houses, we don't want anything to do with. Then there are some municipalities that are embracing it.
yeah, tiny houses have become very popular.
They have, and there were a lot of towns that, I mean, you've got mobile tiny houses, which,
Yeah,
you know, you don't own the land, that's just a whole other.
I know, but these are new concepts because of the cost of structures today.
Yes.
And
So,
they're trying to think outside the box now. How can we get around these costs?
well, and it's not, it's more than, it is costs, but it's also inventory.
Yes,
People need a place to live.
yeah,
So yes, it's costs, but it's also an answer and it's a response to low inventory.
we're gonna get into, next week, I have Leslie here.
Mhm.
We're gonna talk about the homeless situation. A lot of people realize that there are a number of homeless right in the valley here.
Yes. Leslie's great. You'll have a fun conversation. She's very, very knowledgeable.
Oh, yeah, I've had her on in the past about her cleaning business,
Okay, sure.
but,
So, I'll give you Northbridge as an example, just
Yeah.
because I've lived here forever. This isn't a new problem. You know, I remember, so Northbridge, it's gotta be a lot of fun to somebody who loves statistics, because we've got a myriad of people living here. You know,
Yes.
we've got millionaires
Yeah.
on,
We
you know, in
vary
several parts of town, and then
extensively,
we've got, you know, very low income, and we've got a lot of and everyone gets along
yeah,
for the most part. You know, I mean, people
Right.
don't care who makes what. But I used to say that we've got millionaires and a tent village, because in what used to be the Salvation Army,
yes.
there was a tent village of homeless people. And my daughter was in probably high school, so
You mean
we're
down in
probably,
Linwood?
yes.
I didn't know
We
that.
we're probably talking about 2014 or 2015.
Yeah, I didn't realize
And
that.
they would, you know, there was a whole village in tents. You know, I mean, I don't think it was very big,
It was in the
but
back,
in the back.
between the building
And
and
during
the
the
railroad.
winter, I don't know if this is the case or not, but during the winter, they'd either leave or try to get arrested. So they had
Yes.
a warm place. So when my daughter was a junior or a senior, she came home kind of upset and shaken one day, because one of her classmates was put into child, you know, the DSS system,
Right,
because he and his mom and his younger sister had been living in their car. But she said, we never thought that, because they were close to Whiting Community Center, and they'd go in and shower and change, and, you know, or, I mean, these days there's a lot of gyms they could do that with. And so I don't know what the solution that is to that either. Leslie is doing a great job of trying to tackle that in our community.
yes, we're gonna talk about doing some fundraisers, because people don't realize how much it costs to take care of these people in a little way. We're not giving them a lot, which, God, who can live in a car in this weather we've had?
Well, that is what's happening to us. I think in Milford, there's people who are working hard to track down folks that can't afford apartments. So
Right.
homeless people aren't necessarily, they're not faking it. You
No,
know, they're people who sometimes, in some cases, have jobs.
They're working, but they're not making a lot of money.
Exactly. So it's
And, you know, and to rent an apartment, a lot of landlords, they require down, a security payment,
they require security, then first and last month.
first and
It's-
last month, yeah, so.
And
I
then if
mean,
you've been evicted, then that's on, you might not even get an apartment.
Right, they don't wanna even talk to you because you were evicted from another, thinking that you didn't pay your rent or something.
Yes, and And there's a very, very large percent, it might be 70 or 80% in Worcester County of the people who are evicted, it's because they haven't paid rent.
Wow.
So the number's big. I think I had looked into a little bit. Yeah, non-payment remains the most common cause of evictions. It's just, it's really sad that, I mean, Worcester ranks near the middle of the pack in eviction filings, like I said. So I think that we live in a community where Leslie, and there are folks in Milford that are doing this. I know there are folks in Worcester that are doing it. We really reach out and we try to, there are community kitchens and soup kitchens.
Yeah, I mean, they're living off fast foods, and that's expensive too. Yeah, by the time they just sustain their living in their car, they got no money left. So how can they even get the money up to get the down payment?
So I don't want to end this on a bad note.
No. No.
So
You're running close now.
So what I would say is that buying a house doesn't have to be this dream that you just you can't reach. You need a job, you need a decent job, and you need a good
You talk
credit.
to an agent like yourself,
Mhm.
and you can find them a way of buying a house, right?
So renters who have jobs
Yeah.
and have decent credit, it's much easier for them to buy a house than what they think it is.
Right.
I mean, there are a lot of programs where you do only have to put down 2 to 5%. So you get PMI. You go from being
Yeah.
a renter to owning your own home.
Right, and that PMI can eventually run out because you'll get enough equity, you can eliminate it.
Yes. So I would say, I mean, anybody, that's not just a pipe dream. Most people who keep a job, and even if their credit is mediocre, maybe they'll pay more interest, but they own their own home.
Yes, and instead of getting a receipt at the end of the month, you got equity.
Yes. And same thing about selling a home. Now's the time.
Yes, yes.
Believe me, now's the time. It's
Yeah,
just,
you've got the customers out there, we need the homes.
yes. And I mean, and there are people, there are people coming out now. Like I said, I've gotten 5 calls in the past 2 weeks. So hopefully inventory will be up soon.
Well, it slows down around the holidays anyway, right?
It is a slow time, but this is the first year that in January I get so many calls.
Yeah, so it's starting to perk
That's
up.
promising for the spring.
Yeah, it makes it looks good for the spring.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
But
And the other thing too, if they go through a realtor, you can tailor their search to what their needs are. You can tailor to their needs.
yes, absolutely.
Their
yes.
income, whatever they can afford, the size of the house they need. They wouldn't overbuy or underbuy. Yeah, you're going with an expert that knows what's going on.
And if people aren't sure, then I'll help them figure it out.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
And the thing is, there's no charge for that. You make your money when you on the house sale.
Yes,
So I mean, how can they go wrong?
true.
Well, we got to wrap it up. Well, thank you for coming in, Christine. It was very
My
interesting. And we'll see you next week on About the Valley.